tunes in later. Good to have you here. And have a couple of really interesting items this month. But to get started, we do a usual introduction, what FOSS, free open source software, is all about, and what difference it makes and who cares. And a lot of us care, and if you're a newcomer to the idea, we think you're apt to care, but be intimidated, and groups like ours are there to make that easier. You can get this stuff, and it is free, and it's very, very competitive for most other kinds of software that you're allowed to pay money for, and they still think they own it and you don't. This is sort of the opposite take. I'm going to do it a little differently today, but I'll start by setting up my computer as I usually do. Just a minute while I pop over. Oh, here's my cheat sheet. See if it works today. Select window or screen. That's the, oh, here we go. Now I've got an entire screen. Let's put something on it. I'll pick my mail, and that's going to be very helpful later. But for right now, what I'm going to allow. And now that I've done that, I'm going to find that screen. And
why does it say allow again?
I'm going to play a little trick again. And again, what's going on? Oops. And now,
yeah, there's your screen. There's your
now
screen.
I'll put you guys over here, and I'll put my screen over here. And for the beginners, I am running a version of Linux, a free operating system. And the version that I'm running, and many other versions also, allow multiple workspaces. These are multiple workspaces. I've got 2x2 set up.
It doesn't show, Dick.
Oh, I think it should be. What don't I have pressed now?
It's because the workspaces.
What do you want?
I don't think you can do it.
Really? I think I can by showing my full screen, which is what it said it was doing. Okay, we'll never know. We have to get it up on the screen where you see it. Well, you're seeing it.
I'm seeing this.
Oh, but this one you can't see.
No.
Oh, interesting. Well, quick just.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Took a while.
I have no idea why the time lag there. It's instant on my end. Well, in any case, I have it set up for 2x2, 2 rows, 2 columns. Any even numbers in either of those slots, you can get the product. So if you're around a 120, you could run 4x5 or 2x10. And they look about like this in my 4x4 mode. And if I click on one, I get it. I'm in that mode until I go back. I have a tool up in my launcher, which allows me to do the same thing. And I can go back to the one I wanted to be on. And let's see how long it takes. About 3 seconds, not bad. And we'll deal with it. And what I'm doing when I don't bring in the launcher is I'm using the super S combination. So super, if you will. And that brings it in. That's my combinations. In Linux, you can also reassign almost anything to almost anything. So if you wanted, you could use a different key or key combination. I also, while I'm mentioning it, I bop over to the left to bring up all the options I currently have ready to go, installed, not yet running. And if one of them is running, like say Thunderbird, which I'm running right now for mail, that's the screen you see. On the left of that little icon on the left is a little white dot. That little white dot says I have one instance open and running, and indeed it's the one we're looking at right now. So most of these things are closed. Now, if I take my cursor away, that goes away. But again, alternate F1, the function key 1, will put it up there so it stays there until I hit alternate function key 1 again. So we have several ways of playing the games, very flexible system, and I can set it up the way I'm most comfortable. You can do it a little differently. I can close windows by clicking in the upper left. If you're used to Windows, you can do it in the upper right if you really want to. And I've got a whole bunch of tools up on my top bar, which we might talk about later. But instead of the regular introductory slide talk, I've got something I'm going to hop over to because I thought it was nice. And let me see. Not that. I thought I had it all ready to go. And it was really good. I'll find it later, won't I? The regular introductory slide talk is available once you have this list to click on, and we'll be filling it in with what we actually covered. And by late tonight, I think we'll send out an announcement to everyone that's on our list. And just email if you want to get on it. The online agenda will tell you how. And you'll find out when it's up, and then you can click on these links as well. This one.
I would like to ask other people to turn off their microphones because we're getting a little bit of background noise.
Good. Thanks. It got quieter already. And I assume for some of you also. I am going to give up on that one. What did I do here that made so many changes so quickly? Let's see if in general they are working. A test run. I should have opened my Firefox, which is not open.
Oh, it's your slideshow.
Pardon?
That's your slideshow.
Did I put it?
It's in LibreOffice.
It is?
Yes.
Sorry, folks, hang in there. Well, I don't want LibreOffice open. Well, I guess I'll start it before I close it anyway. And now I'll close it. Oh, that's what I was heading for. Okay. Suddenly light dawns on Marblehead. Now, somewhere in here, I should be able to see it, honest.
It's probably in a different window, a different desktop space. So you have to go searching for it.
Well, this is interesting. I think this is not it. So, well, let's play here and find out. It's as if I have 4 computers. They're quite separate. So if it fell in the wrong one, this is true. We heard. Okay, I'll open it here. And
Recovery
for the
failed.
folks who aren't our regulars, you'll be able to click on this, and this will be the introduction to the regular presentation on why it works. But I have one in here hiding somewhere, which wants to tell you, just a minute, go play over here, and
I'm confused.
I'm more than confused. This worked quickly. First of all, let's get the regular mail back. There it is. And let's see where it's sitting now. Let's put it over here. Okay. Now I can go back and forth to that one quickly. Let's set this one up to be where we're working in general. And from hither, I'm looking for an 8 reasons item, and it's totally eluding me. I'll have it in the finished one. Uh, there's a new article that had 8 reasons to switch from Windows to Linux. And I think you'll find it good reading. I'll provide the link, and that will be instead of the beginner's introduction. Bottom line is, it's good enough to work on the International Space Station. It's good enough to give you more free software than you'll probably find in expensive software in a software store. And it's got groups like ours all around the world to give a hand for people that have an interesting question, or for you to share your clues to help others. An ultimate volunteer project. We're doing it, and I think I'll start with the FOSS News, which curiously is 20 years old. The 20-year-old Linux lawsuit, SCO versus IBM, may be ending so suddenly. So first of all, what's that about? And the answer is SCO wanted to sell Linux for a lot of money. And they did do some work on it, but they sure didn't do all the work on it, and they sure don't own it. Nonetheless, when IBM took their proprietary stuff and made it public in the spirit of Linux, SCO sued IBM for making their stuff public. And this is really curious. SCO ultimately declared bankruptcy, I think not because they were bankrupt, because they wanted to be insulated, and a new company showed up instead. Well, the lawsuit continued. The new company picked it up and kept it going. And in concept, it threatens whether Linux can be free open source. That doesn't much matter. It's been thrown out of court any number of times already, but they keep suing. And even under the wearing a different hat. So this gets interesting. We'll go back to where I came, if I can figure it out.
Dick, I think you need to possibly give a quick history of who SCO was.
Well, yes. SCO.
This isn't the original SCO. This is actually Caldera.
SCO is, well, this will be quick. SCO used to be Santa Cruz Operations, and no one ever said that. They said SCO. And it may or may not be this new company.
Drag this over here or somewhere else.
Well, what I want to do is just open, maybe I'll just sit in here. Can I go back to what I came from? No. I'm looking for the one I see everything but.
You want to go to Thunderbird.
Let's think about that for a minute. If I go to Thunderbird.
Which is there.
Yep. Okay, I see the easy way to do it now. Okay, so the lawsuit may be ending. You can read all about that when you click this. But here's the latest name of who's doing the suing of IBM. And darned if they didn't just start another one early this year. And this, I think, is from March. And notice it's no longer in Silicon Valley. It's in a place one person can lurk out inexpensively and send things without being quite liable in the same manner as from the mainland, although it's a U.S. territory. So it gets interestinger and interestinger. I think you'll have fun hearing about it. It has about the same chance of lighting up and burning as our Bolt EV does, very slight. But all the same, everyone's trying to patch it or create it, in this case. And it's an interesting read. They got thrown out on this one, and I think they started again in the last few weeks. So we shall see. it may be just a ever-playing record that nobody listens to, and stay there. We shall see. Anyway, I didn't do that. I claim that's what I did.
You moved everything over into that side.
Okay, so how do I get to Firefox? Here we go.
Don't get poison ivy.
Where everything else? Oh, I mean, how do I get to Thunderbird is what I mean. About like that. So that's that story. You'll have time to read it and time to click on other things that everyone's providing. Everyone thinks they're right. But I don't think the courts are going to change their story. September 17th, this was from last month, and I'm repeating it for this month because it happened in between the 2 months of our meetings, and it's a big deal. So you can read about the date, the anniversary, the what early Linux was about. And we told you this last month, so I put it in as a reminder, still celebrating. But I won't go into it this month. We talked about it last month. The next one's interesting. It's sort of the opposite of that story. This is one that winks out, not one that winked in. So here's one that winked in, but it's history. Here's one that winked out. That qualifies as history. And anybody know what this is before you read it? This is what cryptography looked like not that long ago. And I think I'm talking...
And if you want to hear more on that sort of topic, check the Boston Linux September meeting next week.
Cool.
Good point. Thank you, Jerry.
That was Bill.
Bill Becker.
Okay.
I'm the September speaker annually.
Thank you, Jerry.
Crypto history as well as crypto present every year.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Bill, and Jerry, save the thank you for later. There'll be something else. So this fellow actually bought one of these, and it wasn't working too well. So he peeled it apart, put it back together. Still had some interesting problems. These are the guys that designed it. Here's what it looked like, the whole thing as opposed to pieces of it. And he's going to get his running. He's going to do some very interesting analysis and explanations and comparison to what we've got this year. And I thought it was a fascinating read. And thank you, Don Wade, for sending this along. Good extra link. Again, a pound of good reading. Apparently you have to click on the right icon to make it go. Why wasn't I informed? This also is history. It's a new book, but about history. The Book of Broken Promises, $400 billion broadband scandal, and free the net. You can get the book cheap, but I don't know that you can get it for free other than at your library. And it looked very interesting to me. You can see the whole table of contents and a short summary, and I think they have a chapter or two also, and another interesting link or two. So I think you will find this one interesting. They're saying that the federal government, which is to say you, me, and a few other people, funded a few big phone companies to set up the facilities that they now charge a lot to rent to us. They weren't supposed to. And in addition to that, most countries do it the way this one was designed, but is not working. So if you're in the US, this might be of particular interest to you, as it was to me. Let me see if I can't, hang on, I know what I want to do.
Not available in the Minuteman system.
Cursors, foiled again. but we have access to a couple of others as well if you try hard. The Minuteman has access to some other ones if you try hard. Let's see.
Enough people ask, they'll
This
buy
one I want to be the male one. I'll leave the other set up for see if that works smoother. So that's the end of FOSS history today. We have hot software items, hot hardware, hot internet, computer security, privacy, and freedom is loaded today. And we have some fun, including a cartoon, and Dennis Payne is going to show us a new to me game.
And I have a new junk mail to show them because
It's a winner of a
well,
loser.
it's a very, very confusing. I mean, you're likely to click.
Okay. Well, for now, Algot, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay. You've got the first. Oh, darn. I just found why I couldn't see it. I have it here. This is, excuse me, Algot. This is the one I announced in the introduction, 8 Reasons to Switch. And I see it doesn't have its link in it right now, which is why it didn't shine out at me. I'll put it back in. She'll make a note of that too.
Yeah.
Make sure that link is aboard. And it's a good one. You'll enjoy it. And now we present Algot Runeman. And how do we get you on? We go from
You stop sharing, Dick, and I'll start sharing.
easy to say. Jill,
Yes.
where's my... I'm kind of out of it today on this, so
You go to the one that shows all the people, which is Firefox, to the Jitsi page.
That's... Well,
No,
do I open a Jitsi page? Is that the...
no, you've got a Jitsi page, dear.
Which one?
Go to Firefox, and you go to the Jitsi Meet.
Firefox.
You go to the Jitsi
okay.
Meet page.
Thank you.
And you unshare it.
That's the corner I wasn't seeing easily. And as usual,
Need new glasses. As usual, we get into the infinite barber shop.
so I want to unshare my video, right?
Yes.
Which I suppose is this.
Okay.
Video link, share, cancel.
No.
No? Okay, you be the guest.
Stop sharing.
Okay.
And there we are. No
Oh,
longer
God, are
shared.
you able to get
Should
on
be.
now?
Let me
Shouldn't have a line through it.
start sharing. Okay, I'm showing the multiple screen now, but I'm going to leave that for my presentation screen. I hope everybody can see the Valentine.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. What I want to try to do is to talk through the process of making a graphic like this. Okay. The focus, once again, is on using not objects, but path elements so that we can work with the parts. And I'm sharing my whole screen. So I believe you should be able to see my menu items, not just the on screen.
True.
Okay, so I'm going to slide this over and do something with my keyboard that you can't see, which is to turn on the grid. There is a menu that allows me to do that called the View menu. And to show the page grid, can you see this
Yes.
menu drop down? Good. This wasn't
Yes, we
visible
can.
last time because I was sharing a window only, and the menu items appear to work only if you share the screen,
Mhm.
not the window. So if you look to the right, it has the Octothorpe, which is the hash tag. And if I do a shift key with the hashtag 3, that's the same as clicking there in order to get a nice background grid. And that's one of the most helpful items on this path concept, so that when I go to the drawing tool that I used the last time, this one that is called the Bezier Curve Straight Line tool, I can click, and if you look very closely by the tip of that cursor, you'll see an X when I get over one of the grid points. Can you all see that?
Yeah, when you just after
When
you
I just get there, it goes away after a minute because it's part of that help little line there. So what I'm going to try to do is to create the basis of a heart shape. And that's relatively easy by going up 2 and over 2, and then across 4, and then down 2 and over 2, and down 4. And then I come down to the middle so that I'm under the first point, go across, try to match it up so it's on the same, go up another 4. I guess I went 5, not 4. That's okay. Over 2, across, and back down. I'm not 100% happy with the look of that. It certainly doesn't look like the one on the left at all. But what I'm going to do is to adjust a little bit. So I said I wanted 4 on the sides, 4 grid spaces on the sides. That gets a little closer. And now I'm going to adjust these points using one of the tools that's available to us. We're basically done with this heart, except that I want almost all of my nodes to become what is called smooth instead of angular. They're very angular right at the moment. I think, Dick, you have your microphone on because I'm getting some feedback temporarily. Could you check that? Okay, now it's gone. So,
turned off him. Turn off your microphone down at the bottom. Turn it back on. And turn off your microphone there.
are we all set now? Good. What I'm going to do is to select all these points. Excuse me. I do that by hitting the Control key and the letter A, and that will make all these points turn a brighter shade. And then I'm going to not want these middle 2 selected because I'd kind of like the points of the heart to still be points. And I then go to the node tool that makes the selected, not all, but the currently selected nodes smooth. And I get almost the same that I have on the left. It's not exact, but that's okay. If I want to try to make it exact, I go to the general selection tool, the select and transform objects, and I can adjust this so that it comes a little taller and not quite so plump. But now I think I have pretty much the heart that's on the left. At this point, I don't really need to keep the grid turned on, but I'm going to leave it there because when we make the background square, it's going to be a little helpful. So it isn't really in our way. Down along the bottom, I've mentioned color a couple of times in the last discussions. I'm going to make the heart red, but instead of having the outline be black, which is kind of dismal, I'm going to make it yellow. I do that by going down to the left-hand corner of my Inkscape screen, and I double-click the stroke line, and what comes up over here on the right, which I had open already, I guess some of you saw it, the fill is the red right now. You can see that because this top stripe of the R in red, green, blue, and alpha. Alpha means how much of the saturation is present. Right now, the alpha is 100. The blue is 0. The green is 0. And the red is as much as it can possibly be at 255. So I have the fill set, but I'd like to look at the stroke. So I go up to the top of this little, I think it's called a dialogue. We want this to be yellow. And I can do that in a quick way by going to my color stripe across the bottom and just shift yellow. But I'd like to point out how this dialogue actually works. As it turns out, red, instead of a black line, we now have red because the red is up to 255 instead of being at 0 with everything else 0 as well. But yellow is created by making 255 for both green and red. That's how yellow is defined in the RGB workspace. And RGB is pretty much common for colors on the web, as it turns out, too. So there we have a yellow outlined heart. Now, what about making this much more yellow heart? Well, what I want to do is to duplicate this one. I do that by either edit, duplicate, or as you can see, Control D is the keyboard. And I remind you that you don't have to know the keyboard tricks to begin, but you probably go to the keyboard tricks a lot more in the future. So I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and I'm going to now do a special trick with the path. I'm going to make the path dynamically offset. This is one of the really powerhouse tricks of Inkscape. If you look very carefully, there's a little diamond-shaped handle right there. If I pull that diamond-shaped handle upward just a little bit, I get a bigger heart. I'm going to do another trick here by making this whole heart yellow. And then I'm going to go up to the controls at the top, and I'm going to lower the yellow below the red. You may remember that every shape you make is placed in a layer that is either under, if you made it first, or on top if you made it second. And since I made the yellow second, it went on top of the red, hiding it until I lowered it by taking the selection down one step. Now I want to return to this dialogue on the right slightly, and I'm going to make this yellow be a little blurry. Doesn't do much yet, but once again, I'm going to do another drawing. Again, using the grid so that it's nice and square. It's an empty fill at the moment, so you can see it, but I'm going to make it nice dark blue and then drop it and drop it. And it's now below. And as I click around, I can select the different layers, the smallest heart, the next larger heart. You can see how the handles are moving out just a little bit each time. I want to select that and add a little more blur. I go to the plus of the dialog, and there I get to about the effect I want at 19 or 20 on the blur level. This blue square is a little bit too small, so I'm going to expand it because I'm trying to do basically what we have on the left. And you can see how this is gradually building to where we are. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for the moment because I want to switch to the concept of text here. Now, text is a bit tricky. In its basics, it's not tricky at all. I click over here on the toolbar at the left, create and edit text objects. And I get a nice new pointer that says A because it's alphabetic text. And I click somewhere on the background screen. It doesn't really matter where for the moment. My top row of the toolbar has now changed to reflect what I can do to control the text. Right now, any text I type will be using a font known as Atkinson Hyper Legible. The reason I use that as my default font for Inkscape is that it is very easy to read. And I think I mentioned this last month, but I refocus on that. So I'm going to type in caps Valentine. And that's nice, but it's not a particularly fancy font. I'd like a better font for my angled font, angled text that we're going to have in a minute. So I click this little select font family. And as I do, be patient. Sometimes this list comes up instantly, as it did for me this time. Other times it comes up, my goodness, how long. But that is, I think, a factor of how many fonts I have loaded into my computer. These are all free fonts. Some came with my computer when I installed my KDE, which is a version of Ubuntu, the Kubuntu version. But I've gone in search of a lot of other fonts for the purposes that I have with these clip arts that I do. So if I take the Bada Boom, it should have changed Valentine's into Bada Boom. But let me select all of the text and do that again. Bada Boom, please. Why aren't you? Why aren't you doing that? I'm going to type the Bada Boom. That sometimes helps. There we go. Now I got back issues. I didn't want back issues. I wanted bada boom. Gotta do this again. EA. EA. There we are. Lovely. All right. I may stop early so that we don't have to all be bored forever all afternoon. But there I have the beginnings of text. It automatically comes in as black text. But that's not too bad, because if you look over here at the left, I actually have two different Valentines along with two different days. And that's so that I can control how outstanding this font actually looks. So I'm going to leave the black. I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. And I did that by dragging handles. And I would work harder to center it if I really wanted to do that. But for now, oh, give me a break. I have a D in there. I don't need the D in Valentine's D. So I'm double clicking and then erasing. So now I have Valentine's all by itself. Then I'm going to duplicate this. Duplicate is edit, duplicate, or Control D. Turn that yellow and then hit my up arrow key once and my left arrow key once. And I now have that kind of two-tone but more visible Valentine's coming across the middle there. If I take my mouse and drag it so that I select that part of my graphic, not the whole thing, I don't want all of this to be changed. I only want the Valentines. I'm going to do a trick with that is controlled on the keyboard with the left bracket, the square bracket. That controls the tilt of the word Valentine's. It makes the heart and the graphic a little more interesting in the end. Doing the same work on the word day and then adding a yellow border to the outside of the rectangle. And then you have the result. Now, I'm not going to take you step by step at this point, but I will write up notes on all of what I've done, and they'll probably be to do the whole Valentine's Day in the notes, and that'll be posted on the website with Dick sharing the link when it's available. That'll happen in the next couple of days. So for now, do you have questions? I don't hear any questions coming forth quickly.
Turn on your microphone.
I think I do.
Well, we got to find our mute buttons.
Aha.
Would you do something lazier than trying to match the angle after creating day as a new text thingy?
Well, the nice thing about doing Inkscape is that each component that you make separately, I have to ungroup this one because that's been grouped together as a whole thing. But now if I copy or drag from that one, I'll have to bring it to the top. If I hold the Alt key when I tap away at my left bracket key, that's what I'm doing visibly at the moment. I am left bracket keying, and it's gradually spinning left and left and left and left and left. I can come back to the right if I wanted to have it be tilted to the right instead of to the left, just for some sort of fun. I could do that.
Or
Is that
upside
what your question was?
Upside down should be fun.
Well, let's do a trick here. I'm going to Z for a bit and get back to where it was. I'm going to write day out again. Text. Let me change this to boom ahead of time instead. And that may make it easier. D-A-Y, yep. All right, it comes out on this version of Inkscape. It's easier to switch the text first before doing the typing of the text. So there I have my black. I duplicate that, make it yellow, carry it up and left a little bit. Now, let us assume that that pairing, I would like to just flip left. Up above on the toolbar for the text, excuse me, for the object, I'm on the object control here. These four of the toolbar tools flip, and this one's for horizontal. Day doesn't make sense if it's printed backwards, but there it is. Vertical flip, 90-degree flip, back to where we started. So there are those simple steps, along with the possibility for adjusting in rotational degrees. Now, let me pull this off to the side again and double the click. I'm not sure if you saw what happened there. Let me go off, click it once. Excuse me, I need to select. Click it once, and it has 4 angles that you can pull away, plus the top and bottom. If I click that set again, they turn into rotational handles. And I can do a manual but not measured rotation. That's kind of interesting because I can kind of hang in and decide just what I like the look of more than what it is as a particular angle. And remember, you can always Control Z to go back. The other piece of this oddity is that I can adjust the slant. So instead of making the word slant in a simple way, I make the word slant as the letters remain vertical instead of having the letters rotate. These letters are technically vertical, but I have rotated the combination so that the word
Nice.
is now slanted. I could do it the other way to emphasize what I've done. Oh, I grabbed the wrong handle, sorry. Side handle. And I can do that so that it kind of adjusts in there the way I like to see it, or the way you might like to see it. And if I did that same thing, selecting them and clicking again, and I can squash it sideways with the top or bottom control. So there's a huge variety and variation possibility within your control. You have to do a little bit of practice to get so that it makes sense, but sooner or later you become comfortable with what you're doing because you do it 10 times in a row rather than just once or twice, and your results get better and better and better and better. At least that's been my experience. Yes.
I have another question. Can you change the size of the day, that element, by pulling on the corners or top and bottom and stuff?
No. You can let me do another day so that we can concentrate on what your question is and not be stuck with the picture there. Yay, why? Right now, this is an 18-point word day. I can change the size here by retyping to make it what size I want, 24, for example. Bumps bigger. I can also use this little selector arrow point to get a list of potential ones that are in usual even sizes. The one thing I can do to change the quote size is to squash it vertically. And that may be an effect you want, but the designer of the font probably wouldn't be very happy that you've really mucked up what their font was.
But if you drag from one of the corners, will it drag both directions?
Yes. Let me get back to the same original one. If I grab the bottom right corner, you're asking, says the same proportions and drags bigger. Now, if you look near the top of the page, while I do this, let me take this up there. Near the top of the page, which says W for width and next to it H for height. Current width of this object is 33. The height is 11. So I drag the corners. Those change. So I have total control over this. If I hold the control key, it stays in proportion. If I hold the shift key, it jumps in weird ways. So most of the time I just use the control key for making manual size changes. Though in truth, most of the time I start by deciding what I think is approximately the right size. 144 is a 2-inch high, or 144 points is approximately 2 inches high. 72 is a 1-inch high. And I can get my sense of what my sizes are that way. You could set it to be in inches, but I don't like that when I'm working. I like to stay with the points because that's more what the designers of fonts were thinking. One other thing about text, and then I'm going to stop. Last thing about text. This is multi-line text. All right. I have in my text up near the top text alignment with choices of left alignment, the standard, which is middle alignment, because most of the time you're working graphics, that's what you're doing, I guess. Right hand aligned, and something that can get quite ugly, full alignment. It really doesn't make sense with something like this, but if I had paragraph text, the full alignment would attempt to make a column width all the same width. And that doesn't make sense in this particular thing because there is not enough words per line. The default is center, and that's where we finish. Oh, the point I was going to make was the spacing between lines is determined here. Let me drag that up. Turn it back to text control. 1.25 of the line height is what this is automatically set to in the current version of Inkscape. I can make more space or less space by clicking, and that can overcome spacing problems that you have faster than trying to manually build line after line. What I did was to reduce the gap between lines to 0.85 of line height. Be careful, because it is possible to overlap your text and make it completely illegible. And if you go too far the other way, it becomes kind of silly looking with just an illegible result.
So you could have done Valentine's Day as one object.
If I'd done it for the same font size, yes, as the original over here on the left, Valentine's Day could have been done as one text with an enter between the two lines. But if we want the extra effect of having two different sizes, that's more accomplished through doing each line separately. But that's one of those decisions that you make during the production process. And then there's huge amounts of potential to go much further, modifying the shape of letters by fiddling with their individual shape so that they stop being letters and become paths. And that can be fun. But the basic setup gives you enough tools that you can build realistic and wonderful graphics with a little bit of tinkering to take you a very long way. So today we covered shape design using the grid to help you make good looking outlines, because I don't think most of us could consider drawing a heart as even as this unless we had a balance method like the one the grid provides. I certainly could not have done it with this freehand tool. That's the second one here. There's my freehand heart. Not good enough. Not for the purpose of the specific goal that I had in mind anyway.
It's charming. It has authenticity.
It has authenticity, but for purposes of my clip art, I don't want authenticity. I'm not an artist, and I don't want to claim to be. But I'll still make it red for you.
Elgott, I have a question.
Please ask.
Is Inkscape free open source software?
Yes, it is.
Is there, I've heard of it before. Are the versions available for Windows and Mac?
There are been versions for Windows and Mac. The Mac version tends to be further behind because the developers are mostly Linux users with a good chunk of people capable of understanding the Windows needs, but there's currently no core developer working on the Macintosh port of it. So the older versions are good, but you can't use the newer versions to the same effect because they just don't keep up with all the changes that have been made. So you might find that you're using a 0.92 version or a 0.93 version on a Macintosh, where here the current version is 1.1 or 1.2. and boy, is in an active group right now. One of the local programmers from the Boston area, Martin Owens, is constantly producing new features, talks about them once a week on his podcast. And there are developers all around the world trying to make this the vector graphic tool.
Yeah, Martin's a good guy. I used to come to BLU meetings
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit and install fests.
I've experienced the same thing with LibreOffice. When I've used a version for Mac and when I've used a version for Windows, that they are not the same.
No, it's true.
Mac is one of the least open source friendly platforms, so there's a reason there aren't a lot of open source developers on it. I may do a little open source development since I inherited a MacBook. If I can get compilers set up on it, maybe I can do some porting, but
That
not my
would be
highest
cool.
priority.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pass things back, but what I'd like to know is, shall we consider doing more Inkscape, or have we gone far enough to give you a good sense of where you might want to head on your own, and then we'll pick it up at a later time? But if you do want me to continue next month, I'd like to know where you would like to take it, what kind of discussion you want to see, because I've added how you play with text basically today and how to design simple shapes, but it's a huge space in terms of creative space. And this tool can fill a whole bunch of different needs. And I'm not the expert of all time, believe me. There are people out there who really, truly know the ins and outs. There are lots of very good tutorials. Maybe that's what you'd like to see talked about, some of the tutorials that are out there. But that would be up to you guys, and I'm going to leave it there unless you have other questions. Okay, stop the sharing, I say, and back to my window.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Start your sharing.
Get mine back. Whoops, I thought I did. See if that kicks in. Whoa, I think
By the
I'm
way-
sharing, but apparently I'm not. Oh, guys. This one is right.
By the way, while we're waiting, I
Why
did
isn't that
find.
kicking in?
Are people hearing me?
2 fingers.
Yes.
Okay, I did find the link for the 8 reasons,
Screen sharing
and it's
bottom
in chat.
icon doesn't seem to be acting. Oh, am I having troubles today?
Why don't you try one of the real buttons instead of tapping?
Pardon? You'd like enter?
No, don't you have buttons here?
Okay.
Well, that's weird.
That wasn't doing it.
Somebody else sharing?
I should be able to do that. Any ideas out there? I am tapping the start-stop sharing your screen, and it's not responding.
Working on mine.
Arg. Been in the right place. Up there.
What else do you have open?
Any other programs?
Yes. I suggest we close this one.
I could.
Start with, and You've got a bunch of tabs open. Why don't you try closing?
I can go.
Right,
I can go.
that can go. That
I don't
can
think
go.
this has anything to do with it, though. This one can go. Peeling things off, hoping one of them will help. What is that about? Free software. That can go and that can go. And now we're back to
Now
where we
try
were.
it again.
No extra windows open. Still isn't responding.
Close Jitsi and come back in.
Oh, why don't you try your luck on?
Open chat. No. Close Jitsi and start it again, dear.
See you soon.
Where's Bill Ricker? He seems to disappear.
I'm here.
He's
DR.
heard, but not, he's heard, but not seen.
DR. I saw that.
And my
Flashes.
compliments to whoever's got the Star Trek Day celebration.
That would be me. Yep.
Are you in Jitsi? There's Jitsi meet over there.
I thought I was in it. Hands.
Now try sharing.
You know, we could see you pointing at his screen.
His share screen isn't working. I think you might have to reboot your whole system. I don't know why.
Well, somebody else got something to start. I will work
Oh,
on that.
did you do a leave the meeting?
I think Algot was volunteering to share something.
You're on mute, Algot.
I was. Dick has been digging for games, and I got a recommendation for a game.
You're on mute again.
Yeah, you're muted. There we are.
Thank you. I was trying to do two things at once. Very difficult for my age. All right. Share and back to Valentine's. There it is. I'm going to do that trick, and that never works. Why doesn't it? But it doesn't. There. All right. This is a game called Tanglet. It is a clone of the game Boggle, Boggle, that was a plastic box of letter dice.
Oh, good heavens, I remember that.
Yeah, it's a great game. The standard game is called the Classic. That has 3 minutes of timer, and you install this on any Ubuntu system. It's called Tanglet, Tanglet. Let me tell you, there are grids that will give you fits if you play this version, the Classic. Recently, I have gone now to the Tanglet version because while it starts with only 30 seconds, you get more time for every correct guess you take. So I'm going to do that and see if I can DIAL. That gives me a little more time. RAN, RAN. gives me a little more time from 23 to 31 seconds. Rile, from 19 up to 26 seconds. And if you're fast, you can generate a lot of extra time that way, and it's a lot less frustrating. I'm not going to try to play you through a whole game, but I do recommend you can pause the game with Control P. Pause. You can change the settings of some of the game. You can choose the different games. There are restrictive rules for each version. As I said, the Tanglet version is the one that gives me the most pleasure currently. However, terribly frustrated because sometimes there are 120 words and I get 10. I feel very inadequate, and I'm a guy who loves words. Anyway, I recommend it. Tanglet is available in the Ubuntu store. Stop sharing. Maybe, Dennis, you want to jump in on your game while Dick gets his system back in play? Since I jumped on the game part. Are you in a position, Dennis?
Yes.
Yep, there we go.
So this game is Inertia Blast. I played this game back in college. I was playing around with it. The game stopped working, or wasn't really usable at this point because it was using svgalib, and so it was only run. You could only run it from the console, and you had to be root when running it. They made the developer of it made an X Windows version, but it only worked for what's called pseudo color mode, which is something that you don't use anymore. It was something that people did when they only had graphics cards that could do 256 colors at a time. The basic premise of this game is that you're this ship. You're trying to steal the circle. Hopefully you're not seeing too much of a slideshow, and you have a limited amount of fuel. And the big thing about it is that the circle object is very heavy, and the beam between it acts like a stick that's, a set size. So as you're moving around, it swings you wildly around. So there are different levels that have different obstacles in it. Now, if you want to be really bad, really annoying in the game, you can go over and destroy the power plant, which ends up destroying the planet. And now you have a countdown until the planet gets destroyed. You get a bonus for blowing up the planet too. As you get later in the game, there are caverns that you need to go through. Now, the graphics I've been modifying in this game. So the ship that you see, the fuel containers, and this power plant have all been updated after I started working on it. There's a version of this is a clone of a game called Thrust. And there's a version, another open source Thrust clone called Thrust 30. And they had graphics that looked kind of like this. And so I liked the look of it. So I designed similar looking graphics. I actually ended up using Inkscape to actually do the ship so I could rotate it as I needed and have it look pretty good. I will say that Algott's explanation on how to curve to automatically smooth out the curves and turn on the grid. I would have liked to have known that when I was doing this, but
Sorry about that.
that's okay. But I got it so that I'm happy with the results for the most part. But I may go back and tweak it again.
Version 2.0.
So that is the game in a nutshell.
Are you back with us, Dick?
I think I am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
I
can.
can.
Good. Okay.
I'll wait until he finishes sharing. Okay, now
I have stopped sharing.
Moment of truth.
I seem to be in the same place.
did you reboot your old computer?
No, I didn't. I thought we had it going. First of all, I'm going to take 1 minute to.
Don't know what happened, but his computer got crap.
Well, when sharing quits, sometimes that is an issue with either Wayland or
Not
X.
even sure it's shutting
Xorg.
down.
Oh, if it's not shutting down, that it got crapped.
Yeah,
think I
that sounds
will-
like hardware.
Yeah.
Here we go. It did shut down. But it was a lot of junk in the way, apparently.
Meanwhile, I
We
had
have
a
a
presentation on something.
Oh, please.
I just have to remember what it is. Yes. It's on how to install and use Clam AV. And I'm going to,
Which is what?
which is a an antivirus program for Linux. If you're in Ubuntu, you just go to the software center. Let me see if I can share. And entire screen, share, entire screen. Share. And okay. And now I will go to the software center. Yes, people are seeing that. Good. Let me full screen it. And all you have to do is type in on the search place, clam. There it is. And what you get is Clam TK, which is actually a graphic front end for Clam AV, which is Clam antivirus. And I already have it installed, so I will not try to reinstall it.
And you
I
can
will
pretty
just
much
close
assume that's
that.
the case anytime.
And now I will run it. CLAM. And no. Come on.
Beautiful.
Yes. Clam TK.
You need your
Come on,
application window.
guys.
You need your application window, not your desktop.
I don't want you to do that. Okay, I got to put this somewhere else. Let's see. Minimize. Ah, there we go. There's my clam. Comes up in a little window.
Yeah.
And you've got a place for settings, and I set everything to scan everything. I had to look up what PUAs are, and they are
Potentially unwanted
remember
applications.
damn.
We're both suffering from something awful here. Right? First it rots the mind.
PUA, potentially unwanted application.
Anyway, there are applications that you don't want on your system, essentially. And I said, normally set it to scan absolutely everything. If I do it on my home folder, or even below the home folder, it can take all night. So I won't do that. You can also set it to automatically update or not automatically update. And I think that's not here. Update assistant. And I like to normally set it to have my computer automatically receive the updates. And press apply. The interface is, I think, a little kludgy, but it works. Then once you have your virus list updated, you can scan a single file, a whole directory, and whole directory can be basically your whole computer. I'll just demonstrate with one of my smaller directories, which is one that holds a lot of PDFs and JPEGs for my genealogy
Live
work.
streaming is on.
So I'm, right. I had mine on because you weren't here. So I'm just going to choose the folder genealogy and click OK. And it sits there and it prepares for a while. Mine has something like 26,000 plus virus definitions in it. So it takes a little while, but once it gets started, it moves right along. It says here, once it gets started. Didn't seem to take this long when I was testing it this morning.
Everything takes longer when Jitsi is taking part.
Here we go.
No, everything takes longer when you try to demo it.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Yeah, but Jitsi makes the demo effect even more so.
A couple of these, the GED files are really big. So if I had set it to not do things over 20 megabytes, it would skip through faster. And it should finish soon. And it found 0 threats. Finish soon. No threats found. Now I happen to have in my documents directory a couple of things that click off its threats. So I'll just let this one run as well. And after it finishes preparing, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to know to hold whatever it needs to hold so that it doesn't have to go through the preparing again every time.
That may be a feature rather than a bug. They may want it to update.
Okay, scanned. Possible threats, 1. It will be finished in a moment. I could cancel. But by the time I make up my mind, it will have finished anyway.
In the chat, we're finding out ClamAV is very RAM intensive. This is true.
And what it found was one of these PUAs. And in order to get the full name, I have to. So it's a document from Standard Notes, and it's an HTML file, and it thinks it has a Trojan in there. And if I click on analysis, results. Oh.
No. The magnifying lens. Yeah, that.
A lot of antivirus programs don't like this file. A lot. I'm keeping it here only because I've kept it here only as a demo. I can either delete it or quarantine it. I think I'll quarantine it.
By the way, Jill, what
I
you got
should
there.
have done that, which we can't see, but it says quarantined here, which is almost impossible to see. Light gray on orange, but you can take my word for it that it says it's quarantined.
Okay.
So there you have it. Oh, now the other thing is, whoever designed this did not make an easy way to close it. If you go over here, you get your about. There is no close button anywhere. So I discovered by accident that if you right-click on the top bar, one of the choices is close. And it's out of here. So that's my demo, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm going to get out of my share here.
A comment about...
And there we are.
And now we see if I can do better.
Oh, let me turn off my microphone, and you can turn yours on.
7 minutes off.
Comment about the results you were getting. The list of
Microphone, video, now. At last. It took a reboot to get that little window.
Bob has a comment.
Window or screen, entire screen,
Dick,
and allow.
Hey.
Dick.
Hopefully, real soon now.
Bob wants to say something.
About ClamAV. Just
turn on your microphone.
My microphone should be on.
Now it is.
All right. I keep having to fiddle with my headset. Sorry. On ClamAV, when you were getting the analysis results, you'll always get a list of many of these scanning engines. But it's the far right-hand column where you got 1 or 2 that said they didn't like it and said what they thought it was.
Well, thank you.
But nevertheless, that's a suspicious sign usually.
Yes.
However, I think you're in the clear on that particular item. I get a lot of stuff like that, and it turns out that it's either HTML or it's PDF that it doesn't like.
Well, those are just suspicious anyway.
Or .exe. That's.
Oh, those are bad. Those are bad.
Right.
But it'll also do things with macros.
Yeah, right. Various X, XLS and stuff like that with macros.
And the good news, bad news is the macros are the one thing they have actually effective intellectual property control on at Microsoft. So our macro is not compatible with theirs and vice versa, which makes us immune from them.
Right.
One comment on the name Clam TK. Pretty much anything with the suffix TK is going to be a GUI wrapper for a command line app. TK is the windowing package.
Yeah, short for TK Inter. Basically came from.
And Dick's microphone is not on yet. We can see Jill's lips moving and hear nothing.
Should be on now.
Yes, it is.
It's the sharing the screen that's been following me up for reasons that aren't clear. Why did I leave it at entire screen? Remember it. And allow.
Oh, you have to click in here first.
Here?
Yep.
I don't think so.
I'm waiting to see if there's a werewolf from the Infinite Barbershop.
That's for Halloween. So Algot's going to design a new demonstration for next month.
Oh, it says Firefox cannot allow permanent access to your screen. So undo that.
Interesting.
And allow. I think the problem was you went to block there and then you didn't turn it off.
Oh, no, I did. Well, I claim I did that. Now, how do I get my screen that I want?
You go to there.
And is it coming?
It should.
Ah, relief. Okay, let's see. Thank you, everybody, for punting through. I still got to find out what caused the problem.
I think I know.
Let's see. I've got a couple of interesting ones here, and I'll follow in the hot software. This is for people using Ubuntu Unity. Unity is a front end, and Ubuntu offered it themselves for years, but then took it away. When Ubuntu took it away, a bunch of other places said, we'll continue to support that front end. And then lo and behold, Ubuntu said, well, we'll go back to it also, but not on our main offering. So there's a bunch of versions of it, and that's what I want to talk about first. In this, these are all versions of Ubuntu running Unity. The one I run is called Ubuntu Unity. Do I have it here? This is a way to create it, which isn't what I mean. Interesting. I don't even see it in the list. But wonder which one they're calling it at the moment. Anyway, these are all things that you can use to simulate it. Unity 7 is the one that Windows that it took away, and Unity X is the follow-on. I think Lomiri is the one that I'm sorry. Ubuntu. We are having huge blanks in our brains today. Ubuntu comes from Canonical. That's what I was trying to say. So Canonical has been continuing, I think, with Lomiri, and they want to offer it for phones as well. So you can run the same flavor back and forth. Some of these will be very interesting. The one I particularly like, let's see, can I go back to where I was? No. Yes, and then Firefox. Thunderbird. I'll get it right. And those are versions, but the one I use is one that's all hung together just right, in my opinion. It wasn't doing the tricks today. I don't know what was, but it's with a hyphen, Ubuntu Unity with a hyphen. And that particular one has a very thorough website of its own with links to the canonical one. And this is it. So if you want to install Ubuntu with Unity, I recommend going to this one. But now you know there's a bunch of other ones to confuse it with and how to get past that. So all I did was go to no hyphen in here, ubuntuunity.org. That's all you have to know. And of course, you'll have a link for it.
Is this the one from the guy in India that's like 16 or 12 or something ridiculous?
It has been continued, but yes, by a very interesting young fellow. More on that on another day. But it's a good one. Not the only good one. A lot of people here are running different flavors of Linux. Most of them are running a version of Unity, of Ubuntu Linux, and it's very popular out there. But there's other versions also being offered on screen today by some of our members. So that's all I wanted to say about that one. Back to my main listing. And this one I thought was interesting while we're talking about Unity. Display 2 time zones. This has a rather interesting method, loading a program and then using it and displaying 2 time zones at once up in the top bar. Here we have, I'm running on 1 time zone. It's the one for the East Coast, which is where I am. But in Ubuntu Unity, I found something simpler and more desirable for me. So you'll have the link and you can see how to do it in any GNOME front end. But I'm in a Unity front end. And I just clicked up here. And look what I've got. I can click. And I'm now in a French time zone, and it's getting pretty late out there, 10:38 p.m.
Oh, which reminds me, Farron was going to join us, and he
I haven't seen him. Now I'll go back to Boston.
And I noticed you're not plugged in.
Oh, plug in, good. You're trying everything there. And not that I need it, I still have, I was down to 3 hours on my battery. So now I'm back on Boston time. I'll show you how to add one. In this, you go to time and settings, right within that. And when it comes up, you click on clock. And when that comes up, you do not want to click on time and auto-detect the zone if you're running multiple. I had it in that, I've unchecked it. Now you have to say which one you want by going to this option, time in other locations, and you choose locations. Here's my locations. Let's add a location. How about Seattle? Because, so it's really West Coast is all. I can say it either way. I'll make believe there's no California.
Oh, you have to spell Seattle with an L.
Oh, picky. Getting closer all the time. And it's giving me a lot of choices. I'm going to decide that Seattle in Washington, United States is about right. Click on it. And I sort by time is just this list. It'll be at the bottom and Boston will be at the top. That sounds good to me. And I think I'm done.
At the top and Francis at the bottom.
I'll close it. And we'll go for testing. Any questions, folks? Yeah, why isn't Seattle at the bottom? I think it will be when I reboot. That's how you do it. It's very simple. So I started with one way to get there, and it wasn't a good fit for me, but I found an even easier way by far. to do it if you're running Unity. Nice to know. Okay, I'll close it. And I'm still in Boston. That's a good sign. Let's see. OpenStreetMap. I promised this to Farron McIntyre, who is in the south of France. We were talking about this yesterday. And I'll demo it quickly. It's really nice. And OpenStreetMap has a good article about it here. And the article, this is a history too. It's 17 years old. But I think he's talking from a different month. Just from last month. Pretty close. So happy 17th anniversary Street Maps, OpenStreetMap. And this has a lot of examples of how to use it, what it's about, other things you can do with it. And he's also talking about other versions of open source maps. So
basically, this is a competitor to Google Maps.
Google Maps tracks you.
Right.
You might like something that does not, and there's a lot that do not. So here's some examples. It's a very good introduction to OpenStreetMap.
And more importantly, Google Maps will accept suggestions on things they've gotten wrong on the map. OpenStreetMap lets you JFDI fix it.
Well, you can also talk to someone who will fix it. You get your choice. Yes. But you can physically go in and fix it.
You can leave a note with a right click, or you can talk to me or any of the other volunteers.
Good.
Are you one of the volunteers?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful.
Well, what do you do if somebody goes in and changes things?
It's all version controlled.
What?
It's all version controlled. When the kids playing Pokemon Go started creating parks in their backyard because having a park within reaching distance was good for your game, we went and deleted them.
Good. So you watch it regularly.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Now, I was looking for one in here that you want to know about. Just a minute. Down in the notes somewhere. And here's some of those comments to people about thank you for this, that, and the other. The one I'm looking for showed some advanced examples in it. And this is the one. 13 amazing maps. I think that's the one. Let's see. We're talking again about history of it. I think this may not be it. This may be what led to it.
Maybe.
Okay, I think that might be it. Let me check for more. This wonderful set of links. This is a very heavily supported volunteer project, and you can use it. You can improve upon it. You'll have a hard time doing so. And it's got layers with all kinds of information. I'm not yet finding the one I was looking for. This is a great intro to it, but I think
wait a minute, I thought that was it. Keep going. Next one.
Next one.
Next one. This.
No. But something in here was, and it was nearby. It was earlier on. I think it's the one I was talking about.
It was Mont Saint Michel. That's what it was.
I will find it soon, but I like to find it now. Here, I think this is the one. The best of OpenStreetMap. And this is examples, and sometimes it's the town or the state or the country that has designed something special for themselves. And there are some marked on here that are examples. So we can start on one. We're near the Panama Canal. Where are we? Jerusalem. Okay, so here's a good, hey, Happy New Year to the Jewish folks out there. And here we are in Jerusalem looking at a highly enhanced one for religious locations. I found an interesting one. Where was I? Not there, but where'd England go? Oh, I'm too big now. Right about in there somewhere. I found one for Normandy that was quite interesting. Eurotunnel. They've got all kinds of mapping special projects. You can start one or you can join, volunteer one. And
There are specialty groups for cycle maps, rail maps, historical mapping.
hiking maps.
Absolutely.
So a lot of good things. This is not our Cambridge, folks, but lots of examples, and some of them in much more detail than you're expecting. This looks sort of like what you're expecting, and you can just zoom in or out, and you will find they are very flexible, full of good information. But these examples are varying a lot. I'll make sure they're in the, that you'll have a link for them when we post tonight.
They also have charging stations for electric cars.
Bill?
Yes, got all kinds of good things. I want that one. So good things coming up. And thanks for that clue. Well, let's see. Yeah, Thunderbird Mail. And I'm going to recode these so they make sense to me next time. I'll save that. PF to go. I'll save the FOSS alternatives. And I'll save the rest of that sequence. It's getting kind of late. I'd like to see if there's something you want real bad. I was interested in presenting this one, Ubuntu on your phone, and also Linux on inexpensive smartwatches. It's there already on most of them, but not running as Linux, running as a little canned app. And I've got two very inexpensive ones I was going to demo to you, but this one doesn't arrive until Monday, apparently. So I guess I won't. They're quite interesting. Let's see. Algot, did you demo Bookworm?
He did not.
Did not. Let me look fast before I tell you to do so. See what else we've got. I think I could bail now. I've got some wonderful stuff here that I don't want to start this late. Algot, could you please start on the Mastodon update? And then if you have time, just go on into Bookworm.
Can do.
I am going to attempt the impossible here, as you know, and see if I can't log out.
Nope. I don't think I need to do a screen share, particularly for today's Mastodon update, because we have seen what it looks like before. I should point out that today I posted this meeting as something that was going to come up this afternoon on our local time, using that hashtag NatickFOSS that we discussed in the last meeting. And those of you who have been paying close attention will see a W on your screen. If you're seeing all of us, that W is a person who is here because of that announcement on the Mastodon hashtag, if you will.
Welcome.
I will mention that W is a person whose name I don't actually know, and we call him Wordsmith, her, him, she, he, Adam. Okay, there we go. We have a name. Adam is from across the pond, so did not sign in at 3 p.m. Eastern time. He signed in probably somewhat more like the 7 p.m. And that's the way the Mastodon area works. If we get active participation from this group showing up and saying, this is what I saw interesting on the NatickFOSS meeting this month, or talking on Mastodon about interesting things, making posts there, then people like Adam will join us, as did the fellow from Slovakia the last time, whose name always leaves my brain because that's the way it works. And I'll probably forget Adam's name by 10 minutes from now, too.
I'm
Some of
sorry.
us,
I'm sorry I spread that, Elgot.
it's indigenous, I'm afraid. In any case, I think that Mastodon is just a bigger screen than this one we're looking at together right now, of the multiple people participating in this particular meeting. It just isn't time sensitive by being able to let you see something that I post if you come in an hour or 10 hours later, and vice versa. You can check something I've posted, that I can check something you have posted, particularly if you include my @Alga username, and that will make sure it shows up in my notifications when I log in again. So I'm bound to see it. Now, Dick, this is now the third month. What's holding you up getting your account started? I'm being mean to you, but what's the holdup?
Well, I could tell you, but it would take 2 hours.
Don't tell me that.
Let me tell you, I am feeling guilty. Let's see what we can do about that.
That was the intent, to get you to feel guilty. And anybody else that hasn't joined up, join Bill Ricker and Dennis and me and Dave Hunt, who have signed up, and maybe Wordsmith Adam will stick with us from time to time. We'd love it if you join us monthly meetings, but if all you do is visit once in a while, that would be great. And we're reminded in the chat room that there's a FOSS-oriented Mastodon server called fossdodon.org, which is mentioned in my notes. So go there if you haven't picked another better place. Now, as far as the Bookworm. Bookworm is really just a federated book storage and ebook centric location on the web. I have not had a chance to play with it, have not set up an account there, but the nice thing about it is that it federates into WordPress, into Mastodon, by using this same ActivityPub logic behind it. The protocol is a widely used protocol, and you can follow people who post using I always want to say worm book, and it's not very nice to the books to say that, but Bookworm, BOOKWYRM, a social reading and reviewing site. I recommend looking at that if that's your main federation goal, and then let us know that that's where your account is. If reading is the core feature of your internet participation, the fact that it's federated is just fantastic. The difference is that Facebook is not federated. Twitter is not federated. Instagram is not federated. They're just silos of their own sort. You have to be in their silo to play. And the federation of the ActivityPub protocol underlying Mastodon, which just happens to be a popular federated product, has made great opportunities for sharing all sorts of information about all sorts of things. And that's my report on that.
Yes, Jerry, I've been remiss in not signing up for Mastodon myself.
You'll get to it. I know you will. Now that you're in Framingham, you have easier access, as a matter of fact.
I might, yep.
Well, I think you can hear me. Once
Yes,
again,
we can.
I'm wrestling back at that same point, trying to get the entire screen for me back in gear. The first time didn't work, but here it comes.
I think
Okay,
we've got it.
now, good. So, first of all, I thank everyone. We're getting to 5 p.m., and I am going to see if other people have anything they want to do. But before I do that, I want to say we've been having some problems here today we hadn't anticipated. Maybe we'll have them fixed next month. We usually do, but this particular one is not the one we've been having. It's a nice new one.
I did want to
Interesting.
show that junk mail that I got.
Okay, please do, Jill.
Well, let me first.
Does anyone else have something they'd like to do this month before we all hang off? I will guess not. Jillo, go ahead.
Well, first I have to find it.
Do you want me to? Should I be getting off, Jill?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Dick, may I make a comment?
Yeah.
This has been the first month where my video and sound has been good the entire time. It is not broken down, and I noticed everyone else's too. I'm wondering what's good now about the connections.
When we put up, thanks for letting me know. When we, I think it's up now actually. The links aren't in place. You'll see the same list as this with very few links. But the instructions for going on used to say don't use Firefox.
Yes.
Firefox has made some significant changes involving this. I've been using it. Jill's been using it. I think some others have been
Actually, I'm on Chromium.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I added Firefox to the good list, and we've had some good results with it.
Your video has been turned off to save bandwidth, it says.
Oh, really?
It's blinking on and off.
Hang on.
I think I think a lot of people are getting on now.
Did that fix it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I've been using Firefox for months. Once I saw that my version was claiming to be good for it.
Exactly. We didn't trust it with big crowds until this month, but I've now changed the instructions accordingly.
I've never used anything but Firefox.
Well, that's what I was doing until it was having problems with a lot of Firefox users at once on Jitsi. That had been a problem that apparently has been fixed.
Terrific.
Are you going to unshare so I can get on?
I can do that. It says here. I thought I had done it, actually.
Okay.
Maybe I can't. I think I'm back in the same. Oh no, it came
Don't
up.
say
this,
it blocked though. No, you're out of it now.
He's unshared.
You're
good,
unshared.
good. It came up very slowly, or maybe after I hit it 3 times. I don't know.
All good now.
Okay. I received this email from Discover Identity Theft Protection, which I subscribed to, and it looked normal. But when I hovered over
And it's obviously from Discover, looking up top.
right, it says it's from Discover up here. Except don't RPLY seemed a little strange. But when I hovered over View My Dashboard now, which is not what they usually say, you can see down at the bottom that the address
It looks a little suspicious.
is a little suspicious. So it turns out that I was not going to click on it. I did accidentally click on it. And what came up was, wait a minute. Was perhaps the site has disappeared already. No, here it is. This is not the normal login. So be warned.
And there's a warning in the upper right.
Well, that's my cookies delete,
okay.
auto delete.
Ah,
Oh, actually, this one came up too. That's very interesting. It did not come up to this exact one before.
it might have been defanged.
Right. Anyway, yeah, it came up to one that I decided was, I didn't want to go there.
Bottom line. Go see what's on the bottom line, but don't put your cursor on it, because then you can accidentally click it.
Right. And the other thing is, go directly to the site, not by clicking on the email, but by going directly to the site the way you would if you didn't have the email. And that way you know you're going to the right place.
They're pretty good at faking things. And they can slap them on, slap them off. Somebody else may have found a way to get it off, but you just don't know. So remember, there's a possibility it's not the real place. And when they give you a link to click, look at it on the bottom line by mousing over the link and looking at the bottom line. Don't click either. I don't think I have much more to say. Anybody else want anything before we wish you a good month?
I pasted into the chat the link to the article you showed on the last of the rotor machines, and link to my talk last year on the machine that followed after that one, the second half of the scandal, the first sort of discrete digital machine.
Is there an easy way to save the chat as
No.
a file like there is in Zoom?
All
I
I've
think
been
you
doing,
had to do a Control-A select and paste.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, John Abreu
Now,
saves
Control
the
A.
chats from the BLU meetings.
Control A might not do it.
Well, good, thanks.
It's ugly.
If anybody has a link to send me for something they were talking about, please send it along soon so I can include it tonight. And after dinner, I'll take a look and see what we've got to add in, and a lot to subtract out and save for next month. I think that's it. I wish you all a very good month. Thanks for joining in. May the FOSS be with you.